Elizabeth Arden cream.
This one's wife. Team Dimwit. Mess up again. Hello, I'm H.G. Tudor. I think it's only apt that we have an appearance from the Horn of Ridicule, don't you? After all, there are a couple of clowns on the loose once again. I should imagine that it would be fantastic if this sound were to follow the gruesome twosome around. Mwah, 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 mwah. Each time she says something which is useless and doesn't have the desired effect. Mwah, 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 mwah. Each time Harry shows himself to be the simp that he is. Mwah, 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 mwah. We have the repeated trombone of failure telling them that's what they are. And along with the horn of ridicule and the trombone of failure, both have got a good airing recently, because Team Dimwit have just demonstrated what a pair of fuckwits they are. You, of course, have been following, with probably a degree of head-shaking and eye-rolling, the whole brouhaha surrounding the Princess of Wales photographs. Well, what we had was a situation of her issuing a photograph rather clumsily, but innocently. There's nothing sinister about it, and the press going into overdrive once it was discovered that it had been edited. This one's wife naturally sought to capitalise upon that, failing to offer any support for her sister-in-law because she has no emotional empathy, and instead choosing to let it be known that she wouldn't fall for that because she has a freakish eye for detail. It didn't take long, because of course what this one's wife singularly keeps forgetting to take notice of, because of her arrogance and the compartmentalisation of her narcissism, is that there is an army of fact-checkers out there that's ready to point out her own shortcomings, which is why she ought to keep her mouth shut, but we all know that's not going to happen. And it didn't take long at all for it to emerge that one, and we know there are more about this on another video, but at least one photograph was referenced as having been altered. Again, there's nothing particularly sinister about the picture, but the fact is it's utilised as a composite image. And with this one's wife saying, "Oh, no, you wouldn't find us doing anything like that. I have a freakish eye for detail. Yes, absolutely." It then makes her look like the hypocrite that she is. We know that this is because of her narcissism, that it can't resist the opportunity to make her look holier than thou, to belittle Catherine, but then, of course, it opens herself up for collateral consequences, as it invariably does, because of the mediocre nature of her narcissism, the way that it functions. Accordingly, the picture of Harry and this one's wife in the garden had a willow tree added into the picture. Meason Harriman, flunky of the Sussexes, did this, and indeed, he admitted to doing so in an interview. This was clear and unequivocal, and yet he then seeks to renege upon that position. You can imagine what has happened. Over at Monty Shit Show, with its 27,000 flushing toilets, this one's wife has been sat at the desk of no action, laughing to herself, cackling probably at the misfortunes of Catherine.
Yes, I see now, Catherine, how they're all getting at you. See how you like it.
And thus she revels in the discomfort that Catherine has been experiencing. But hang on a second. A day later, there's trouble on the horizon. What's this?
Harry! Meason's photograph's causing us a problem, she yells.
Immediately, she picks up the phone. Beep, 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 beep. Hello? Says Meason.
Meason, what have you done? You stuck a photo in there and then you've said that it was doctored. That's ridiculous. You're making me look stupid.
Oh, sorry.
Well, do something about it now, you big baldy bastard.
And of course, issued with such instructions, Meghan, eager to please as the lapdog that he is, seeks to then renege upon what he originally said, making himself look like a right old tit. As reported by Victoria Ward in The Telegraph, a close friend of the Duchess of Sussex has strongly denied claims that he altered an official portrait released to mark the announcement of this one's wife's pregnancy in 2021. The carefully curated black and white image of the couple lying under the tree in their garden in Monte Shitshow, California, was taken by society photographer Meghan Harriman. It has been claimed that it was actually taken in a meadow and that the large willow tree had been superimposed behind them. However, Mr. Harriman, a dear friend of this one's wife, denied the allegations, branding them insidious and dangerous. Responding to the claims on X, he said, "You're," and he misspelt it, which does show that he belongs in the Sussex squad, doesn't it? "You're kidding, right? It's a real tree. Nothing has been changed beyond the black and white grade." I think you're kind of missing the point there, Mr. Harriman. Mr. Harriman took the picture remotely with an iPad from his home in London. I mean, at least William was in the same proximate vicinity of his wife and children when that picture was taken. In 2022, he was asked during an appearance on BBC Radio 3 podcast Private Passions how he had created the photograph, and he said, "It's amazing what you can do with technology." The presenter asked him, "They were actually under a willow tree." Sorry, they weren't actually under a willow tree. They were lying outside in a meadow, weren't they? Harry and this one's wife, when you took the photo of them? "Yeah," Mr. Harriman replied. So, nobody had a gun to his head. Nobody was saying to him, "You better say this or else." He said, "Yeah." That's yeah. He was affirmative. So the presenter asked him, "They weren't actually under a willow tree. They were lying outside in a meadow, weren't they, when you took the photograph of them?" Mr. Harriman said, "Yeah." They were lost in their love, at home in their garden, comfortable, celebrating new joy. The claim that a tree had been superimposed prompted claims of hypocrisy after a source close to the Sussexes criticised the Princess of Wales for manipulating a family portrait. The source told the New York Post's Page 6 column that this one's wife would never make a picture editing mistake and that the couple would have been annihilated for releasing a doctored family portrait. It seems pretty clear to me. Presenter says they weren't actually under a willow tree, they were lying outside in a meadow, and Meghan Harriman confirms that was the case. Therefore, if a willow tree then appears in the picture, it must have been put there and it's doctored. Again, it's not sinister, but the point is that Meghan Harriman admitted that it was a picture which had been manipulated, as many pictures are, we all know this. But now, because that makes this one's wife look stupid, and she's clearly got onto Harriman saying, "You've got to sort this out," he's now trying to retreat from what was said, what was recorded. He said on Wednesday, "I suggest you listen to the podcast. I was asked a leading question by the host." Well, do you have the brain of an amoeba, Mr. Harriman? Are you not capable of saying, "No, they were under a willow tree"? Was it the case that somebody had their hand shoved right up your shithole, that they were then manipulating your vocal cords to the extent that you went, "Yeah," when you wanted to go, "No, they were under a willow tree"? Were you fighting to say that, Mr. Harriman? Were you there going, "I really want to say they're under a willow tree, but this person has got their fist wedged up my yitter and they're manipulating my vocal cords, and oh no, I've gone and confirmed that they weren't actually under a willow tree. Boo-hoo, boo-hoo." Of course not. He had the capability to say, when asked that question, "Oh no, they were under a willow tree." So either they were and he's an idiot by confirming that they weren't, or he was telling the truth. But now the truth has come back to bite the Duchess on the bottom, and she's very unhappy. Very unhappy with Meghan Harriman. He might not get any more photographing assignments from her. She might just go there and pull his pants down and smack his botty cheeks, making him a very naughty boy indeed. He states, I suggest you listen to the podcast. I was asked a leading question by the host. I ignored it and spoke about the love my friends have for each other. No, you said, yeah, you didn't ignore it. You confirmed what was said to you. Stop trying to twist it, Mr. Harriman. You've clearly been infected by the nonsense that this one's wife engages in. In a video posted on his Instagram page, he said the suggestion he had admitted manipulating the image was dangerous. Well, I think if someone says to you they weren't beneath a willow tree and they were in a meadow, and you go, yeah, that is a clear admission that there was a manipulation. Unless I'm missing something. He continued, any mention of meadows and willow trees comes out of the person doing that interview, not my mouth, he added. Mr. Harriman told the BBC at the time that the image, taken when this one's wife was pregnant with Princess Lilibet, was his most famous virtual shoot. He described how he had used technology that allowed him to communicate with the Sussexes and tell them how to pose before he remotely pressed the shutter button thousands of miles away. In a separate interview, he told Vogue, with the tree of life behind them and the garden representing fertility, life, and moving forward, they didn't need any direction, because they are, and always have been, waltzing through life together as absolute soulmates. You may chuck up. When you see people who have the connection that they have, it's like reading the pages of a book. Makes you wonder if this one's wife wrote that shite for him. The Duchess spoke about her dislike of having certain features airbrushed out of photographs after posing for a People magazine cover in 2017. To this day, my pet peeve is when my skin tone is changed, and my freckles are airbrushed out of a photo shoot, she said. There's no suggestion that the Sussexes edited the photograph themselves. What we have here, of course, is another example of the collateral consequences of this one's wife's narcissism. That it compels her to suggest that she wouldn't fall for something that Catherine has done. And then, unfortunately for her, there's this pesky thing called evidence that actually demonstrates that although they didn't do it themselves, there was a manipulated photograph which was then issued on their behalf. And I don't doubt, given the necessity of control that this one's wife has, that she had final approval over which photographs were used. That's fairly standard, and she'll have known that they were lying in a meadow, and then a tree has appeared, so she's known it's been manipulated, even though Harriman did the manipulation himself. But this now makes her look stupid, and because that's a threat to control, she has to contact Harriman to cause him to renege on what his recorded words were, which not only makes him look stupid and removes any credibility that he might have had, it also demonstrates that quite clearly he has been interfered with, shall we say, by this one's wife to try and steer the narrative in a particular direction, and shows her and Harry to be a pair of dimwits, an empty and thick pair of individuals, whereby, once again, her narcissism has sought to assert control, has been threatened, and then has taken a shift in stance, only then to be exposed at a later date. Another example of the collateral consequences of her narcissism and the necessity of the assertion of control. I'm H.G. Tudor. Thank you for listening.